So you would go on the experience machine, and you'd think that people who wouldn't are just confused.
So let's remind people or inform them about what the experience machine is. Do you want to prop up that thought experiment?
Sure, it's a thought experiment of Robert Nozick, and he imagines this scenario where you get offered the opportunity to be plugged into this experience machine. When you're on the experience machine, you're not aware that you're on it. You think that this is real life. And in advance of going on the machine, you could choose whichever experiences you want to have for the rest of your biological life. You then get attached to the machine, to get put to sleep and get fed these experiences. Because you've chosen them, presumably you would have chosen just positive experiences or maximize the number of positive experiences that you can have. And the question is, if offered this choice, would you go on the machine or would you not? And most people who are offered this choice don't want to go on the machine. There's some, of course, who do, but most say they would decline the machine.
This is a very interesting thought experiment for reasons that I think Nozick couldn't fully anticipate. I mean, I think this experiment is aging better and better and is becoming more and more interesting given the prospect of AI and, recent quirky arguments in philosophy, the simulation argument of Nick Bostrom. However seriously one takes the prospect that we could be living in an experience machine already, it's certainly less crazy than it would have been when Nozick wrote his book. But I have a few intuitions here that I don't totally trust. And I think what happens here is when people recoil from the idea of being in the experience machine, I guess a more modern version of this is the Matrix. They smuggle in, as they do on many of these other questions we're touching, they smuggle in some associated concerns that really are not intrinsic to it, or that you have to hold to the side to actually think about it. So, for instance, people care whether they're in touch with reality, right? And then you can ask, why do you care about that? It seems to promise the difference between a fake experience and a real experience, or a justified form of well-being and an unjustified form of well-being. And those distinctions break down, or certainly can break down, the more you analyze our entanglement with reality in the first place. The one part of the experience machine that would trouble me, that I think we could get over, which we could just fundamentally change, is the issue of not being actually in relationship with other conscious minds. One version of the experience machine would be you're essentially in a dream state, where you're, however pleasant the dream, the people you meet, the people you're in relationship to, they could be the most interesting people you've ever met and the most beautiful people, and you have these incredibly rewarding relationships. But in reality, they're zombies, or they're avatars, they're figments of code, and you're not actually in relationship with anybody, right? So the falsity of that circumstance matters to people. But of course, the Matrix need not be like that. These could be, artificial intelligences that actually are conscious, right? So you could be in a simulated world populated by conscious beings that are every bit as conscious as they seem and are indistinguishable from biological people as far as their experience goes. So that changes things, or could change things massively for people. The uncanniness of the experience machine isn't going to get me to balk here. I do think consciousness is the reservoir of value. The only reasons why the experience machine would be undesirable, from my point of view, would have to be things that would be a matter of conscious thoughts and attitudes and associations that I would have that would diminish the quality of that experience. So I just gave you one. This beautiful woman who you think you're married to in the experience machine is in fact just a confection of ones and zeros that some evil genius has created for you, for your amusement. You're not actually in relationship. Well, then that matters to me, given all of the dominoes that start falling in the negative direction, the moment I have to take that on board and realize that, everything isn't as it seems.
Right. So I was just wanting to clarify your position. I don't think it's profitable for us to go down and examine whether this is the correct view or not, but I think your view is more controversial than you would recognize. And there are some people who do find the experience machine to be good evidence that it's not just conscious states that matter.
It's actual and potential conscious states. So, like, one of the reasons why it's good to be in touch with reality, or so I would say, is that reality matters whether you're aware of it or not, right? Reality is what's there determining the future state of your conscious experience, and it's a thing you're going to bump into in the dark when you're unaware of the terrain. And so, all things being equal, you want to have your beliefs about your circumstance to be in some register with your actual circumstance, because that's the only thing that's going to spare you extraordinarily unpleasant surprises. We have this bias, and I think it's a well-founded one, against being delusional, however pleasant the delusions could be. But there is some construal of our current circumstance which does reveal it to be a kind of experience machine. There's a dreamlike quality. I mean, even just speaking, just neurologically, where is our experience coming from? What is your brain doing to produce it? And, how much of the real world is getting in? We are having a kind of controlled hallucination much of the time. One could even say all of the time. And given our growing capacity to change ourselves with our technology, the moment we start hooking our brains directly to computers and having something like virtual reality piped in directly, then this experience machine is coming whether we like it or not.